Hello, hello. Welcome to our next episode. Today, we're going to be talking about decision-making patterns. So how can we spot specifically in our prospects, what is their primary motivator for making a decision? And these two critical ones that when you understand will dramatically improve your ability to close more sales. Now, when we get this wrong and we try to help someone make a decision and we align with the wrong decision-making strategy, like we try to motivate them the wrong way, what's going to happen is it's not going to make sense. It's always going to feel like you're speaking a different language to them. And you're going to think like, oh, I thought I said all of the things the right way. And I'm really surprised that they haven't like made the decision yet, or they haven't gone forward. And it'll feel kind of detached, if you will, like you're speaking another language. Then if we look on the other side, what happens when we nail this? Those little moments of like, yeah, I get it. Yeah, okay, this is great. The prospects feel really invested. They feel really kind of motivated, because this is what we're looking for. So what is their motivation strategy? And there's really only two. And so nailing this really can improve your conversion ratio. It can deeply improve your rapport as well. You can get to deeper rapport with prospects because they feel understood. And also it makes handling objections at the end of the call way easier as well. Um, because you have that deep rapport, they have that understanding, we're at the core of what's going on. And even more than that, it makes selling much easier, because what we're looking for in the sales conversation is not necessarily any kind of magical words to say. We're looking for each individual person's buying motive. What is their motivator? So what are the, right, preamble aside, what are the two different motivators? And so we have a moving away motivator and we have a moving towards motivator. And this comes from the world of NLP, in the world of coaching. When it comes to how people or how humans are motivated, there are some people that like to move away, which means move away from fear, move away from pain, move away from difficulty. And on the other side, we have prospects who want to move towards love. So it's the opposite of fear, right? So they move towards things that are positively geared. So outcomes, goals, etc. And when we align our reasoning for our product with the moving away or the moving towards, it just makes the whole thing flow easier. So let's talk about some examples of moving away and where it sort of comes from. And I would say it's probably about a 60-40 split towards moving away. Most of the people that I speak to or that I've sold to tend to fall on the move away spectrum. A lot of entrepreneurs do as well. Because if you think about where this moving away comes from, is during our childhood, there was something that happened that we didn't agree with, we didn't like, we didn't enjoy. And so we decided that I'll never be like that. And the classic one is maybe your parent had a behavior that you really didn't like. Maybe there was a drinker or, someone who yelled or was angry all the time. And so we internalize during that period, we go, well, I'm never going to drink because I don't want to be like Dad, because Dad was a drinker and it wasn't great for the family and it was stressful. We felt like we were walking on eggshells. Or, someone so-and-so was angry all the time. So therefore I'm going to be relaxed. I'm not going to be that angry type of person. So this is an example of like something that happened negatively during childhood that created a moving away from driver. Now, it sounds strange to connect those two together, but this move away or move towards is what we call a meta pattern. So a meta pattern is this overarching universal truth in people where they either choose one or the other. And this is what I love about human behavior is there's only a finite amount of these patterns. So we're probably going to talk about most of them during this podcast at some point. But when we understand that there are these specific meta patterns at play, these are kind of hard wires into the human brain. And what this means is every prospect that we're speaking to has some kind of hard wiring. And it's either this moving away from or this moving towards love type motivation, which also applies to decision making. How that is created, so how these meta patterns are shaped, are by our childhood years, so by that 0 to 7 imprint period when we are younger. And no one person's going to be the same because no one had the same childhood, no one had the same conditioning. And so our job is to sort of notice is that when this person is speaking with us, specifically from the moving away, they will tend to start with problems. So it'll sound like, I don't want to experience this, and I don't want this, and these all the things that I don't want. And this is really key because you can hear it in their language. I don't want to experience this. I don't want to experience that. I don't want to experience these sort of circumstances. And so this is what we're listening for to get an idea of that person. Now, how does this directly apply to sales? Well, if we can get them to drill all the way down, or we can, instead of having them language what they don't want, really getting clear on what it is. So for example, if we're talking about sales, because I think it's just the easiest example, right? Someone says, I don't want to lose the deal. And I don't want to lose all of these sales. And what we're hearing here is they're saying, I don't want to lose these sales. I don't want to experience whatever that is. Because the I don't want to lose sales is the symptom, but there's something below the surface. So what we want to do with this prospect that is saying, I want to move away from, is we want to move away from what? Like, what is beneath that? Okay, so you said you didn't want to lose a sale. What's beneath that? Like, what are we moving away from, essentially? Or what happens if you did lose the sale? What's that thing underneath the surface there? So whenever we're dealing with this motivation pattern, what we're looking for is we want to get clear on what is that thing beneath the surface. And this is the key to unlocking the sale for these people. And the biggest mistake that I see salespeople make is that they don't actually go that layer deep. They don't get clear on, or they take that surface level symptom of like, I don't want this and I don't want this and I don't want this. They take that as the answer of what the actual problem that the prospect is experiencing, but it's not the problem. That's not the problem that they're experiencing. That's the symptom. The thing they're actually moving away from is beneath the symptom. It's one layer deeper. So they might say things like, I don't want this, and I don't want to lose a sale, and I don't want objections, and I don't want to have to be told that it's too expensive. Okay, cool. So what's underneath that? What happens if you did get told those things? What happens if your sales skills never change? Well, I would go out of business, or we wouldn't make money. And again, there's clue in that language there. I wouldn't make the money. It's they're languaging it like something that they don't want as opposed to what it is. And this is a very delicate linguistic strategy here that we need to understand is when this prospect is saying what they don't want, they're not actually saying what it is. So for example, if we say, I don't want to be thirsty. So what do you actually not want? This is going to say, I explained this recently to another client and it was a little bit confusing, but just bear with me here. So like, I don't want to be thirsty. I don't want to be hungry. I don't want blah. Okay, so these are the things that you don't want. What happens if you experience them? And so what we're looking for is like that negative word in front of it, where someone says, I'm not happy or I'm not sad. So what are you then? And so what we're looking for with these people who move away from fear is we're looking for that negation, that negative word that is in front of the outcome or that in front of the actual emotion or state that they're expressing. So I'm not sad. We're looking for that not. I don't want to be unhappy. Okay. So whenever we hear that, that's the symptom. We need to get beneath that to really understand for these people that are moving away from, of what are you actually moving away from? Don't tell me what it's not. Tell me what it is. I trust that makes sense. So this is the key to understanding this moving away from fear is it's the number one difficulty that I see salespeople experience is they take that negative of the I don't want as the problem, as the motivation, but it's not. It's what's underneath the surface. So in all of those examples, I don't want to be thirsty. I don't want to be hungry. Well, what do you actually not want? What happens if you were thirsty and hungry? I would have a headache. I would feel sick. I would feel nauseous. So there's this difference between stating what we don't want versus stating what would actually happen. And this is the magic to understanding the decision making. So let's flip it now. Let's look at the other side. This one is a lot easier, right? With these prospects are so much easier to sell to, which is why you often see these sales as a bit of a layup, really, where this person is, it's a layup, right? Like it's the person is just telling you what they want. They're motivated by outcome. So it's like, And I mean, it does occur on the side as well. So someone might say, um, you would say, so what do you want to achieve? What are you looking to do in our time together? They might say, um, I I just want to close more sales. Okay, fantastic, right? So now we have an outcome. So where do you want to go? I want to close more sales. But the same thing, it's also a little vague. And so we want to get specific here. And if we think about the prospect and they're answering this question, I want to close more sales, we immediately need to start drilling down. And by drilling down, I mean defining. And my mentor shared this with me. He called this defining terms. And I've talked about this somewhere in our course somewhere, but there was this SquarePants episode where SpongeBob and Patrick, they found swear words for the first time. And during the episode, whenever they used the swear words, the episode would like make dolphin noises to kind of like imply that they were swearing and they were censoring it. And when Mr. Krabs came up to SpongeBob and Patrick, said, "What are you doing? Like swearing all the time?" And SpongeBob was like, "Their sentence spices, Mr. Krab. They make my sentence more spicier. They add like flavor to it." And what I want you to take away from that is when our prospect is talking about things that they wish to achieve, somewhere in their sentence is something spicy or something that needs to be defined. So someone might say, I need to make more sales. In that scenario, the spicy thing that needs to be defined is to make more sales. They might say, I want to overcome objections. And so we want to go, well, what do you mean by overcome objections? And so we call this defining terms, right? Where the prospect has used a term, or in the SpongeBob analogy, they've used a sentence spicer that is a little bit vague that we want to define, to drill down on. So the same way as what we did for the moving away from fear, we want to do in the move towards. So in the move away, they said, I don't want these things. So what did you want instead? Now they're saying, I want this thing. What did you mean exactly? And this skill here, this drill down, this is probably like there are so many sales hidden in this particular skill that you wouldn't believe. Like the amount of calls that I've listened to where people don't know how to go deep enough to get to these core motivations of like, what are you actually moving away from and what are you actually moving towards? This is the stuff that takes you from like a 20, 30% conversion ratio easily to like a 40, 50%, 60% even, where you just know how to elicit these responses. So I trust this one was fun today. This is what we call moving away or moving towards. If you loved it, please leave us a comment, share it with somebody, leave us a rating. It'd be much appreciated. And I'll see you in the next one.